Yeah, welcome to another episode of the Racer X Exhaust Podcast. I am Jason Weigandt here. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast network. We got a lot of great things, including the new MXGP podcast with the very professional, very classy, very well-informed Adam Wheeler and the completely unhinged and unfiltered Lewis Phillips. Even if you're not into MXGP, if you spend an hour with these guys the morning of one of the days of the week after an MXGP, you'll have a lot better understanding of that series. Probably more so than if you spent 4 hours watching all the motos live. So like and subscribe to our podcast network. We've got a lot of great stuff like that, moto marketing and more. Readouts, which are long form editions of magazine stories as well. Now, I don't need to tell you how good this podcast is going to be because we're interviewing Adam Cianciarulo, who everybody knows is one of the best, most insightful interviews in the sport. Plus, interviews with AC are at a premium because he hasn't been at the race as much this year. So it's not like you're getting podium time or press conference time or post-race interview time with him. I wanted to go in a different direction than just talking about his current situation with the knee injury, though. I've always been impressed through the years how Adam has changed from someone who absolutely lived and died by his racing results and he had to win and he had to succeed to someone who still wants to win very badly, but also has a perspective of it doesn't matter completely. It's not like his life is a complete disaster if he's not winning races. I have not met many racers who have been able to have those two perspectives working at the same time. And I think it's something that we can all learn a lot from. If you have any level of ambition in your life, it's really hard to not just put a number on it or put a certain date or a certain thing that you have to achieve and you believe that is going to give you happiness. And somehow Adam has been able to not lock himself into that, but still keep the passion and desire to try to do a good job. Still, so there are lessons learned for everyone here from a 25-year-old. Enjoy it. But first, a shout out to our sponsors. Of course, Yoshimura, always on board with this exhaust podcast. I was just cruising through Yoshimura-RD.com. They got a sweet-looking exhaust system for the new redesigned Yamaha MT-09 street bike, the Triple. Man, it sounds pretty good in stock form. I cannot imagine how good it sounds with a Yoshi exhaust on it, which also is 6 pounds lighter than the stock Yamaha exhaust. But maybe you're not a street bike guy. That's fine. They obviously are going to have exhaust systems for your dirt bikes. I mean, look behind me. Lawrence Brothers, that's Jet back there, but when he was running the number 83. Yoshimura exhaust hanging off the back of that bike. All the factory Hondas run them. Lawrence Brothers, Ken Roxon, whenever he's riding, would have one. Chase Sexton, longtime supporters of Suzuki's, but they also make very good exhaust systems for Yamahas and Kawasaki's and the Austrian brands, Husqvarna, KTM, Gas. So go to Yoshimura-RD.com and get an exhaust for your bike. Now, I've had Liat on board with our podcast this year. Now, when it comes to choosing riding gear or a kit, a quality pair of boots is definitely something you want to invest in. They are key points of contact with your bike. It's essential that your feet and your ankles and shins stay comfortable and protected. And that's for the Liat 5.5 Flex Lock boot, a 3-year project with long-term development and testing using their pro athletes from all over the world and Racer X's own highly touted tester, Chris Kiefer. They're all involved in this 3-year project. That's where this boot comes in. Designed with outstanding comfort and grip optimization with unique features like the auto-locking one-way sliding closure for a great seal at the top of the boot. Liat's adjustable flex lock system reduces forces to the ankle by up to 37% and reduces force to the knee by 35% by locking out the ankle movement when it's overflexed, which gives you that feeling of security. It's available in 4 colorways, as well as the new Enduro version in an additional 2 colorways, all for $399.99, which is actually pretty reasonable for a very high-end motocross or enduro boot. So check out Liat.com, Leatt.com for more on the Flex Lock boot and all of their line of gear or kit or protective products. Also, On Track Schools has come on board with our podcast this year. The K-12 distance learning school for students who are on the go. Chase your dreams and blaze your trails with nothing holding you back. There are no limits to what you can do when the classroom is where you make it. On Track School meets you where you are with a flexible, personalized education that happens at your own pace. So pursue your dreams and your education with On Track. After the episode, go to ontrackschool.com. That's their website. And if you're going to register, we'll give you $100 off with the code RX22. I'm going to read that to make sure. Yes, RX, capital RX22 for $100 off registration at ontrackschool.com. Now let's talk to Adam Cianciarulo. Okay, good to see Adam Cianciarulo. We hung out a little bit in Minneapolis. Otherwise, you've been a ghost on the racing scene. I'm sure you're aware of that. But I gotta first go to you for medical advice. I'm joining the club. I have a ACL and meniscus damage. My first question for you is this: how long am I going to be like completely on the couch, incapacitated? How long before I'm walking with that cool thing you had on your leg in mini?
Well, I know you're cheap, Weege.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you need to rent a game ready. It's gonna run you about $115 a week. You need that for at least 3 weeks. I would
Okay.
say incapacitated, maybe a week,
Okay.
a little over a week, where you're not really able to do much. But then
Yeah.
after that, it starts to come around a little bit. I think this time, for me, I didn't do anything but the ACL. Everything else in the knee was good. And the last time on my other side, when I did my knee, it was like some meniscus damage and stuff. This time it came around quick. I think I was on crutches for like 2 weeks, in a brace for 4 weeks. So I'm not worried about it.
So when you had the meniscus thing, how long were you on crutches there with the previous knee injury? A little longer?
Yeah, that was about, man, I was on crutches for about 6 weeks. But
That's what I'm thinking right here. Okay.
that being said, I did race with a torn ACL and all that stuff in my knee for like 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of stuff going on there. This time, tore it, got it fixed right away, and it seems to be coming around a little bit quicker.
Okay. So this dovetails, unfortunately, into I got to ask the robotic mechanical questions. What's the update of the injury? Any idea when you'll be back? How's it going? All that stuff.
Yeah, so normally in ACL, everybody knows an ACL is 6 months. Like a torn ACL is 6 months. Yeah, I got on the bike a little bit sooner the last time I did my ACL. I think I got on it like 5 months or so. And honestly, I dealt with a lot of soreness in I'm doing all the rehab, doing everything I can, but I dealt with some soreness for a while. Like it kind of affected me for a while. So this time and talking to the team and all that, it's like I don't want to rush it. I want to do everything the right way. And we all know how rushing it works out most of the time. So yeah, I don't know. I think sometime I'll be back on the bike sometime like June or July, around that area. But right now, just trying to, yeah, like you said, I've been kind of out of the scene since. But yeah, since then, just kind of laying low, doing my thing, watching some.
I think most people they hear the ACL injury in January. They're like, okay, he's coming back for the Nationals. That's not necessarily part of this schedule. You're going to come back whenever you can come back, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and everybody's different. Some guys, my knee feels pretty good right now. I'm cycling, I'm doing all this stuff in the gym, but it's not. Even though it feels good,
Yeah.
it takes a while for those ligaments to harden up. And they say an ACL isn't actually as strong as before until a year. So that's why you see these NBA players, obviously they're moving laterally and without a brace and stuff like that. But most of those guys miss, if they tear their ACL mid-season, most of the time they miss that season and the whole other one. So,
Yep.
yeah, we've had some crazy ACL. Like I think RJ Hampshire came back in like 10 weeks or something crazy last year, and I was like, I don't know how we did that. But yeah, for me, I gotta go with doctor's orders and do everything I can and just see. I'm trying not to think too far ahead these days, trying to stay present in the moment and do what I can. So yeah, it's coming around though.
So you started the year off, unfortunately, with another injury. Is it a coincidence that this knee thing happened, or is this the result of trying to ride with one and a half arms with a shoulder injury? Is that kind of one thing leads to another? Do you think, looking back at it?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I when I went to the gate at Anaheim 1, I didn't know. Like I really was telling him, I tried to give Jason Anderson my gate pick because I had a better heat race than him. I was like, dude, just take my gate. I'll go to the outside. Like it's no big deal. I really thought, I didn't know if I was gonna make it. It was I think in the second practice at A1 is pretty ruddy, and I just can't, like my right hand corners were just so bad because
Okay.
I couldn't keep my outside elbow up, and yeah, so I was all over the place. But I felt like I won the race when I think I got 12th or something like that. I felt like I won pretty much. But yeah, I mean, as far as the injury is concerned, I was actually crushing the whoops at San Diego. Like things were starting to come around for me a little bit with the shoulder. Um, but the big thing was it's like this external rotation strength
Mm-hmm.
this way.
Yep.
It Anytime the bike went a little bit left, it was like I kind of couldn't do much. So I got a
Yeah.
tiny little kick in the whoops. I mean, I've never ridden a bike that was working better for me in the whoops at San Diego. I was so stoked. But I got a
Mhm.
little kick and I'm like, okay, let's shut it down. Like I'm over my fast lap. Let's not do this. And I just tried to slow down. That was all I was trying to do was slow down. I couldn't keep the bike from going left. And so I
Ah,
got to the end, of the whoops and, I got one of these,
mhm.
leg out, whatever. So yeah, it was definitely, I felt like I had to race. I'm not going to lie. I felt like I had to be out there. Um, Obviously hindsight, it's easy to look back and be like, you're an idiot, but had it worked out and had that not one, I was being able to build and get into the season and put together some good results, it would have been like, oh man, that guy's tough as hell, all that. But now I look like an idiot. But yeah, I was just doing my best trying to make the right decisions in the moment. Of course, I thought about all my options and talked to the team and everybody around me about it. And yeah, I made the decision to race and bit me in the ass.
Yeah, and a shoulder separation, it's not a dislocation. That's when the collarbone comes separated. As motocross injuries go, it's not the gnarliest injury in the world. Like people have toughed that
No.
out a lot. So it's not like
Yeah.
you were doing something crazy in motocross terms.
Yeah. Chad Reed, Detroit, 2008, I think he had a
Yeah.
grade 3. He got 12th.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That
so yeah,
day.
you can do, you can do it. It wasn't pain for me, whatever. Obviously it hurt, but that wasn't it was just weakness, and those are big motorcycles. And the first few tracks too were so gnarly. I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys gotta be kidding me, bro. But
Yeah, the Anaheim one whoops. They were the first set of Anaheim one whoops that have been tough ever.
I'm like, what are we doing? I gotta get these Dirtworks guys but when they build whoops, they all gotta go through them at least once.
Did you hear what
I think
Phil
that,
said? He's want to tape his hand wide open, put the bike in fourth, tape his wrist wide open, and say, "Go through these whoops that you just built."
yeah, for real. Yeah, they're building them steep this year for sure. And I think, and I had to talk with them after San Diego press day. And I'm like, it's not you can build them as big as you want, but in my opinion, it's just sometimes they're built backwards.
Mhm.
So what happens when the whoops are like this and they're
Yeah.
they're long and they're big, you have your margin for error is so small because you have to be on the very top of the whoops
Yep.
and you have to be going very fast. And so you in the 450s, like back in the day, listen, I'm a moto fan. Like I wasn't down trackside in 2005, 2004.
Okay.
But I know those whoops were massive and those guys were super gnarly. But I just think the 450s, they just get so edgy,
Mhm.
and at a certain point, I guess unless you're Eli Tomac this year, you're kind of taking a chance a little bit with that. But that's Supercross and we like it because it's hard.
uh, After Anaheim won, I think it was, you did an interview with Mathis, and Mathis is like, "Hey, maybe this is good. Like, you just had to take a 12th. You couldn't even race for the win. Maybe that'll, lesson learned there." And you're like, "No, dude. Like, people always think that I'm pushing the edge all the time, and that's why I get hurt. But I'm really trying. I've already tried not to do that. Like, I already have learned not to ride over my head, even though this stuff keeps happening." It was funny to hear that exchange.
Yeah, it is funny. And I think in sports in general, people like once you see one example of somebody doing something, you just group everybody in.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, I've made mistakes, and I'm not scared to get crazy. I'm not scared to push hard, but it by no means am I feeling like. Of course, there's a moment here or there, but I mean, it's not that hard. Like, not to be cocky, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything crazy out there. Yeah, just kind of unfortunate. The whole off season, I assess my program, assess my weaknesses, and do what I can. But then it was the shoulder, and yeah, that's what it is. I can't look into it too deep. I know I've made the right changes to continue to progress in the sport, and sometimes shit just doesn't work out.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the thing. You don't want to be pinned down as, "Oh, if Adam would just back it down 5%," because you're saying you are backing it down. You are not riding over your head or even to the limit a lot of the time. You're trying not to have these things happen.
Well, for one, I don't give a shit how I'm perceived.
Oh,
Like I
impressive.
don't really care. Um, but yeah, I don't spend too much time thinking about it. And honestly, the fans have been great. I really don't catch much flack these
Yeah.
days, but yeah, I feel like I'm riding and most of the time like 80, 85%. And I've worked really hard on that. Like especially since I got on it, really my last year 250s in 2019.
Yeah.
It was that way, something I was working on a lot. And then once I got on a 450, that's been one of the main focuses every time I go to the track. Is not you don't go to the track and just hit it with a bunch of intensity and try hard everywhere. It's figuring out where to try hard, what's efficient, what's not. Yeah, and I feel like I have a pretty solid game plan as to how to be better, but yeah, sometimes things just happen.
Now, what's crazy is, okay, yeah, so the shoulder's going to give out. You're not going to be able to go 20 minutes, but the first couple laps, Vanaheim won. Okay, Kenny and Sexton were on one, but you were pretty far away from fourth. Like, you weren't that far from them, and you were pulling away from fourth. And then the first,
Yeah.
dude, the first half a lap of Oakland, you were pulling away. Do you use that for a little bit of guidance of like, okay, that's only 3 minutes out of the entire 2022 season, but that's still something good?
Yeah. I mean, at Anaheim, I got a good start and I was like, holy crap, those guys are right in front of me. Like they're not passing me. I was tripping out, but it was it helped me because I couldn't skim the whoops. Like I just couldn't do it with my shoulder. So after the finish line, I was just landing inside and just going straight to the low line of the whoops and just like double, triple, whatever. And guys were killing themselves trying to skim it. And I look back at the tape and I was putting a couple bike lengths on those guys every lap right there. So it was funny. But yeah, I mean, truthfully, it's not something that surprises me. I feel like I could take a year off and get back on the bike and give me 2 months. And I think I personally believe that I can go as fast as anybody in the world on Supercross track. I always have, even being hurt and coming back, I've always been able to find it. But yeah, it's more than that. I mean, that's just one part of it. And it's great to be fast and it's cool to have that. And of course it's good for, have the potential to win. That's valuable in the sport, to have the potential to win, to go out there and be able to put the bike up front. I get good starts, but it's only one part of the package. You have to have everything at this level, especially in the 250 class. You can get away with more, but at this level, you have to have it all together. Or you're going to get your ass beat.
Yeah, so I think a lot of riders would need something like that to get them through the dark times or the tough time, to pull through. Oh, it's going to be another wash season for you. But I feel like you've already figured out a way, and that's really what I want to hit on this podcast. You've already kind of figured out a way to cope, I feel, where you don't need at least I'm still fast, and that's what's going to give me the motivation to get up every morning and fix this knee. I feel like you've already been through that, and you've figured out coping mechanisms, and I'm impressed that you've done it. I don't think you're as in the dumps as people would think you would be right now.
I think taking the sport so seriously from so young. I mean, so dead serious. Like it was everything I want. I mean, I was like 5, 6 years old and I'm like, I'm gonna be that. Like there was no doubt. And I worked like it was a job. I mean, I had pit board out there at 6 or 7 years old and I wanted that. But growing up in the sport, athletes, it's not unique to me, but you wrap up your value as a human being in what you do. It's only natural. I mean, I think in society today, like I think people do that anyway, even doing the whole normal school thing, college, whatever, go to work. And I still think people struggle with that, but especially as a kid when you're developing so much and all that stuff is so wired into you, that for a long time, and every now and again, there we go. Every now and again, I still feel that way. I'm not perfect by any means, but I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that I have value as a human being in the way that I am, that my character, my integrity, that I'm not saying that I'm perfect or great or anything, but I have things that I value. I stick to those things. And that to me is my value. And then I have my dirt bike racing, which I care about very much, like a lot. But at the end of the day, all I can do is the best I can do. Like that's all I can do. And yeah, I've had to, maybe my shoulder doesn't pop out at Toronto my first rookie year and everything just goes perfect. I win some titles and it's all good. But I look back now and I'm like, I don't want that. Like I'm such a different person. Like when you care about something so much and it doesn't go well for you, I mean, you have to find coping mechanisms. You have to figure out, you have to get to the bottom of it or else you're just going to shrivel up and die. That's what I felt like. So it's just been a growing process where, I get down. It sucks. I worked really hard. 6 months of the off season grinding my ass off every day. And then you do do my shoulder and then 2 races and I'm sitting on the couch again. It sucks, but I did my best. I do my best, and that's it. And that's what I'll do till I'm done. And that's what I'll do in life and every other area.
So that is an awesome philosophy to have, right? You just do your best, and you put your best foot forward, and you tried your best, and you can sleep at night with that. That is an awesome, like, external idea to have. How long did it take you to say that this is the way I'm going to need to approach this, and then to actually feel that, to actually believe that? Because it's one thing to say it, and that would get us all through the day better. But did it take a long time to actually feel that way once you started coming up with this philosophy?
Fake it till you make it, baby.
Okay.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. So there was some of that.
I mean, at first there's a lot of emotion. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of emotion, but I've always been a logical guy.
Mhm.
Always been a thinker. So it's like I figured out the way that I want to be, like what
Yep.
I feel is the most efficient way to be.
Yep.
And at first you're dealing with a bunch of emotion. You
Mhm.
know the logic, but a lot of times the emotion is overriding the logic.
Yes.
And then eventually it just becomes the way that you live and the way that you are. And it's hard at first. Making big changes is hard in general. But yeah, I mean, I guess I just kept at it. And then you see the benefits from it. And it becomes easier to kind of make a habit out of it and be disciplined and not let yourself get there. And by no means am I saying that I'm perfect or I don't snap or get down or whatever. But for the most part, my life has been, it's funny, from the outside looking in, you think, this sport's kicking the shit out of me, but I don't feel that way. Like, I just don't feel that way. I feel like it allows me to see a different perspective. Like, one of the things consider myself like a stoic. Stoicism is kind of my philosophy. And one of the like primary principles of that is nothing's good or bad. It's just our perception. What is good and bad. And ultimately we don't know if bad leads to a good place down the road. Or the way I look at it is like, maybe this motocross thing will never work out. Maybe I'll never win a championship or be as good as I thought I would be. But for one, I'm going to try my ass off. Mm-hmm. And for two, maybe it's going to lead me somewhere else that's like way more valuable than anything I have put in my head is like my ideal life. It's impossible to know.
Right, because
that's kind of the way I look at it.
The only thing you would have been satisfied with is like X amount of titles, X amount of race
100%,
wins.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just utter domination.
Yeah,
that's it. So, yeah, it's funny. I've changed. So I've always just been a deep thinker. I mean,
mm-hmm.
there's people that watch my interviews, they know it. Mm-hmm. I've tried to be different. I've tried to be like, you look at successful athletes, not all of them are, there are out there, but they're a little bit less deep, I would say. So I've tried to change. I've tried to be different, but I can't not be myself. I just have to get the most out of my personality. And at the end of the day, if I'm not myself, then what am I even doing? Like, I'm not, so yeah, that's what I got for you.
But what I think you're getting at is, okay, yes, at one point in life, and anyone that follows the sport, whether you're doing what I do or what you do, or you're a fan, like we talk about the numbers and who's won what and how good somebody is. That's all we concentrate on. But in the end, like, it's true that if you walk through an airport, most people don't even know who you are or what you've done. And there probably are more important things in life than a couple more race wins and a couple more titles. Helps the bank account, of course.
Yeah,
but it's hard to keep that in mind, right? Where it's like, hey, we've all been there, right? When you're in a relationship with a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, and it goes sideways, there is nothing else. I don't care how many race wins you got or how much money you got in the bank.
Nope.
There are other things that are also as important as winning races. Is that kind of what it is? Like, hey, maybe like you said, it'll lead you to some other discoveries that you didn't even think you cared about. And hey, maybe that's even better than winning races.
Yeah, and I think even in the past, from the outside looking in, like if I were to be perceiving this conversation from an outside perspective, I'd be like, just kind of soft, right? Like it's like a little bit soft. Like you just want to see the athletes, and you want to see that it means everything to them. And I would say to that I've found like my value in it. Like I found different value. It's not because like I just got to destroy these guys. Like that's how I thought as an amateur. Like I just want to embarrass these guys. Like I just want to be better than them, because that's what I always taught was the best. Like just be better than them. That's the way our society is.
Yep.
But I found like a different love for the sport, because it's not rooted in like, I have to do this or I have to do that, or if I don't do it, like, how am I going to survive? How am I going to sleep at night? It's so you take all that bullshit out of it and you're left with a more like pure love for the sport, I guess. It's so I would counter to anybody that listens to this conversation and thinks, oh, he doesn't care. No, it's just caring in a healthy way with some perspective. And ultimately, for my personality type, I know that that's how I'm going to get the most out of myself.
I think your timing is good here though, because I think there was a time when you look at like the super gnarly RC Stu Reed days where it was 100% all the time, mind games with each other. It was so serious. It was so gnarly. I feel like overall we've seen the riders feel this way, and now the fans are getting a window with vlogs and stuff that you can kind of treat it like a job, as in I check in, I do my work, I do all that I can possibly do in one day. I can't train for 14 hours. And then after that, I'm allowed to just be a regular person. I think that's a little more accepted now. And I think that's why some of the guys are racing longer, because they're able to check out a little bit.
Right.
Again, you weren't around racing in pro as 2005, but to me, it seems like everybody's kind of understood that a little bit more. Do you think that?
I think so. And I always look at mainstream sports, and
Yep.
it's like we're maybe like, we'll call it 10 years behind them in terms
Okay.
of like development from, I don't know, I guess just a general perspective of how things are. But yeah, I mean, you've seen that a lot in the NBA, the NFL. It's just, I think it's just a natural progression, where it's like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think you get what I'm trying to say. I think some
Yeah.
people out there get what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I definitely feel now we have some people that aren't scared to speak up about some things, like
Yep.
I think I listened to an interview with Justin Bogle last year, and he's like crazy good at articulating his thoughts. And I've heard some interviews with Colt and a few others, and yeah, I think it's just starting to modernize a little bit. And I'm certainly not scared to talk about it. Like me, I love to talk.
Yeah, well, I think the old perspective was if we saw the rider doing anything else besides racing, that meant that he wasn't focused.
Yeah,
And I think everyone figured out, the riders themselves also, no, man, this is just a 9 to 5. Like I go to the gym, sorry, I ride my bike, I go to the track, I go to the gym. And at the end of that, there's nothing more I can do physically. So I can sit here and stew over racing for 5 more hours, or I cannot. It's not going to affect how I ride anymore.
so everybody's seen the Michael Jordan series,
Yes.
like his documentary. And you look at somebody like that who was obviously worked crazy hard. I mean, he's
Yeah.
probably the best athlete of all time, right?
Mhm.
How many stories are there out there of him like winning a game and going to the club all
Yeah.
night, and then like
Yeah.
playing it back to back and dropping 40, or
Yeah.
playing 36 holes of golf, having 10 beers and then dropping 40?
Right.
Like, it's not like, maybe some people do need to lock themselves in a room. Like
Mhm.
maybe they do, but
Mhm.
I think now with everything, is feedback is so open. Like the world is so small now that it makes you think like you have to be a certain way. And you can't get around the work. Like you can't get around the work. You have to
Yeah.
grind, or you're not going to do anything in the sport. Like you have to work. Anybody that's out there racing a main event is a bad dude, and has had to do a lot, like from a young age.
Yep.
But you have to find what's best for you. Like maybe some guys need to go get fifth at Anaheim 1, and maybe they need to hit the club after, and like go a little bit easy on Monday and put a big Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't know, but I just don't believe that there's one way to do things. Just humans are so unique. It's easy to get caught up in what you think you should do based off of all this social media and the internet and YouTube and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, deep down what's best for you and how you can get the most out of yourself. And you got to stick to that and put the blinders on.
Now, I think the opposite side is there have been, okay, you've been, as you say, taking it very seriously from a very young age, as we all know. Sometimes when you get all this time off, and unfortunately you've had a lot over the last, say, 8 or 10 years,
Tell me about
we
it.
used to have this phase that riders would get to where they're like, man, this whole life outside of racing, not traveling every weekend, being able to hang out with my friends and be normal, man, that's really fun. And I don't know if I can ramp it back up. Did you ever almost fall into that where you were so out of the racing scene that it was almost like hard to get back into it? Because we've lost riders in that way also.
Yeah, yes,
Yep.
absolutely. Especially when I was younger, especially my first couple of years as a pro. I mean, because everything. I mean, it like my whole amateur career, it went really well, but it feels a bit. It didn't necessarily like I don't look back on it. It just feels like this euphoric win everything. It was like it was gnarly. It was super
Yeah.
gnarly, and I have some good memories for sure. But it was gnarly. But everything was good. Like as far as racing was goes, everything was. I knew nothing but winning. I mean, just get a whole shot and race 5 laps and win, whatever. But then having to deal with all of the failure, like not doing good all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and I'm like, so much stuff to figure out. The sport made me so bitter. Like it made me so bitter because I was just, it felt, I think we have this perception that like you work hard and then you do well. Like
Yes. It's automatic. Yep.
hard work doesn't guarantee you shit,
No.
nothing. And
Nope.
life doesn't owe us anything. It doesn't owe us anything. Like I was sitting there thinking to myself, I have been riding 5 gallons of gas a day since I was 4 years old, man. Like missed any, like I didn't want to do anything else. Like I just put everything into this.
Yeah.
And I'm like just getting the shit kicked out of me, shit kicked out of me. And it just starts to hurt. And you start to kind of rebel against that. You're like, fuck this. This is, I don't need this. Yeah. So it just made me bitter. I mean, I didn't even watch any races. And I mean, those 2 years that I basically was off the start of my career, I didn't even watch. Like I couldn't even do it. But then, like you said, that mindset comes in where, okay, this is like this could not work out for you and you can still be okay. Like you have your values, your character, your integrity, that's forever. All this stuff is awesome. It's great. And it's fantastic that we care about it enough to want to work hard enough to bring us through these trials and to learn all this stuff about ourselves. You're okay. And of course, still when stuff goes wrong now, like, I mean, after San Diego, I mean, I wasn't in a great headspace. Definitely not. I wasn't super stoked on it, but it's not, I don't feel that bitterness that I felt, I think, and I think that's proven by like me going to Minneapolis and, doing the reporting thing, like whatever, life goes on and cool opportunities. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I wanted to have you on here, because the fact that you've been able to have all that perspective is, I think, honestly helpful for others to hear that. But you did never get to the point when you were not racing for a while where you're like, man, I've been hanging out with my buddies every Saturday for like months. Do I want to have to go to the airport every Friday for the next 7 years or 8 years or 10 years? Because that's the thing. Like, as long as we're all in this carousel, it all seems normal. And one moment you get off, you can either miss it or you could be like, man, that sucked. I didn't realize how much that sucked until I stopped. Did that ever happen?
So I think I've definitely I've enjoyed going out like in the past, doing things that you never got to do as a kid. Going out, having some beers with the fellas and going to concerts and all that stuff is cool. But there's always a moment. There's always a moment where you're like, I remember specifically, I was hurt. I remember being downtown Orlando, just sauced up, and I remember just thinking, this always happens. There's like always a moment where you're like this is empty. Like this isn't. It's not who I am. It's not, it's new to you because we grew up grinding, it's all new.
Yep.
But I think at the end of the day, yeah, that kind of thing is like, when I feel that way, I use it like kind of as a trigger in my mind of like, this is a temporary emotion that you're feeling based off of your experiences. Yep. You got to look at it you just got to combat those types of things, like especially as a kid, with just a shit ton of logic, and kind of trust that you're disciplined enough to take you down the right path. But yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. Like I try not to make decisions based off temporary emotions, and I try to recognize that they're temporary, and typically that helps.
Now, what's happening now is, so a guy like your teammate here, Jason Anderson, a couple years ago, he's like, man, I was almost thinking of getting out of it. Now he's 29, and he's like, man, I've now realized I don't know what I'm going to do with my life without dirt bikes. Like, why would I not try to get every year that I can out of it? Why would I quit this early when someone's still giving me a bike and paying me? So So is that part of it too? Like if you had just given up at that point, did you know that you'd say when you're 35, you'd be like, that was dumb. Why didn't I try to squeeze every bit of this fruit that I can, get all the juice I can out of it?
So I think like and this is just me talking. This isn't,
Yeah.
I have information from anybody or anything,
Right.
but just like I take somebody like an Anderson, and I think it's somebody that despite all his like, I don't really
Yeah.
care about anything vibe, like
Yeah.
you're not going to find anybody in the pits that cares more than that guy. Like
Uh-huh.
he's a grind. I mean, he's
Yeah.
probably the hardest working teammate I've ever had. I mean, the guy's on the track all day long, all day long. But I think for him, when you care about something so much like that, and then he won a title, and I know that was always his goal. Like, I just want to win a title. I just want to win a title. He won the title. Then you have all this pressure that you're putting on yourself. You're like, oh man, I don't need this stuff anymore. Like I got 10 mil in the bank. I'm good. I'm good. But I think when you get closer to that mindset in your head and you really start to think about like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
It starts to get scary. So then the trigger from that is, how do I find a way to make this more sustainable for me? Like, what mindset do I need to put myself in to be able to do that? Like, how do I have more fun? How do I keep it lighter in my head, not have all that pressure? And I think he's a smart guy. I mean, to me, his like enthusiasm, his body language, everything, the way he speaks, he found like a more sustainable mindset. And I really think the same things happen with Eli. It's the same type of deal where they just look lighter out there. They like literally look lighter on the bike, and in person you see them around, and yeah, they realize, they see the end coming, it's right there, and they're like, oh man, I need to enjoy this. I think that just perspective just comes with age.
Yeah, because look, let's say, okay, unfortunately this year got messed up again. So it'd be easy for someone to be like, dude, why do you keep putting yourself through this? And by the way, we take the pain and the surgery stuff like for granted. Like that also sucks. Like not just the not being able to race this year, but it's not fun to get ACL surgery.
No,
But is there a part of
sucks.
you that says like, yeah, but if I were to give up, I would be so mad at myself for not at least trying as hard as I could for as long as I could. Can you think where you're going to be 5 years from now and how mad you would be at yourself for having not given it another try?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, of course those thoughts run through your head. I mean, God, I've been the arm thing, the nerve thing in my eye. It feels like I've been hurt for like 5 years straight. It sucks. Right. I've had I think 9 surgeries in the past 18 months. Like
Jeez.
that takes a toll on you. It really does. It sucks being sore all the time and hurting. And you're thinking, man, am I gonna be able to golf when I'm 40? Like, what's the deal? It sucks. It's way harder than racing every weekend. I can tell you that. Dealing with all these injuries and in my opinion, having done both. So yeah, it sucks. It sucks being hurt, but at the end of the day, I would be bummed if I did give it up. It's a temporary emotion, and I know how much I have in the tank, and I think there's smart people out there see that as well. And I mean, at this point, I owe it to myself to run this thing into the ground. I've been doing it my whole life, and I really believe that I can succeed and I can do it. And if I really didn't think I had it anymore, then I would be. That goes back to that perspective of like everything, like you'll be okay without it. I have enough of that perspective to be like, all right, I can go do something else. Like maybe you and I can be colleagues or something like that.
There you
go. Yeah, I'm not scared, but I do it because I love it. And I believe that I can be the best at it. So why would I stop?
I don't know how deep you want to go into this answer. Obviously, this is also what you do for a job. And if you do well, you get paid really well. Is that a factor? Or is it like, nah, man, this stuff is too tough to look at that as your right or wrong? Were you worried about like, well, I can make more money racing, so I better just keep on racing? Or does that not enter the thoughts?
No, I mean, financially, I have freedom. I don't have to keep doing it if I don't want to.
Yep.
So, I mean, of course it would help. I mean, being 25, it's like you're trying to make some lifetime worth of income really before you retire.
Yeah.
It doesn't really play into my thought process much at all. I'm well invested. I have rental properties, cash flow. I don't need, I'm pretty set up. So I just do it because I love it. And I believe I can do the best, like I said.
Yeah. I'm glad you answered that one, only because like, not you, but there's other guys that are like, dude, they just keep trying. And it's like, why would they just keep trying? And I'm like, maybe they just need to make the money. Like they don't want to say that.
Yeah.
But for you, that's nothing to do with any of your strategy. Yeah.
No, and even if I didn't, like, it's just never been who I am.
Yeah.
Like, it's never been who I am. I just want to do things that I love to do.
Yeah.
I think that's what life's about. This stuff goes by quick. So
Plus, man, look, isn't this too gnarly to only have the money as the motivator? Like, is there enough money that you could be paid to make this worth it?
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's way what I feel is way more of an investment is time. It's
Oh,
all your
yeah.
time. It's
Yeah.
all your time. It's all your time. Like, yeah, it's everything I've ever done. Like, I think about memories as a kid, and I don't have any that aren't at the track. It's like
Mhm.
that time is worth something, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
going to go up and down, but at the end of the day, you got to keep going. I mean, if you still love it, you got to keep going.
This is great stuff. So are you at least in the headspace now? Are you watching the races now? That's all that's all good
Yeah,
this year? Yeah.
yeah. I've watched every race.
Yeah.
So I sometimes I'll like mute the television. I really am looking forward to one day talking about racing instead
Oh, you're
of being
saying this
actually
right
out
now.
there
You're admitting
riding.
it.
Oh yeah. I'm admitting it. I was like, I've done a few. I remember I had the opportunity with you and GL
Yep.
at Red Bud, and then I've done a couple Supercrosses back when I was on Fox Sports with Fro and Ralph. And I enjoyed it, but this last time I was like, it's a lot of work during the week. I mean, a fair amount of work, a lot of Zoom calls. You know how it is, all the production meetings, you got to get there early, talk to the riders, all that stuff. I mean, I loved every second of it. And it's crazy. I feel kind of psychotic because it's like I can go to a different place. Like, I'm not a racer anymore.
Hmm.
And I can look at it kind of objectively. Yeah, man, that was the best thing that happened. Like, because now it's like you see the end coming, right? Whenever the end's coming, and I'm like, obviously those positions are hard to get, and they have great people in those roles now. But wherever I can fit in, I can't wait for it.
This is the exact point of what I'm saying. You are able to separate these two things. I think it's very difficult to say, like, this is what I'm going to do when I'm done, but that doesn't mean that I'm not locked in on what I'm doing right now. Like, those two things are usually
No,
wedded together, and you've figured out a way to live both things without one messing with the other. That's not easy to do. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, how can I make my sentences more fluid?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not trying. It's not something I'm putting effort into right now. My chief goal, my goal, what I think about, everything revolves around how I can be the best on a dirt bike. I mean, I'm not just saying that just for some good PR. I mean, that's my life. That's what I live. But I mean, if you don't think about who doesn't think about the future a little bit? And it's nice to feel like you have a little bit of a game plan, and it's something I love to do. I love dirt bikes, and yeah, it's definitely not anything that's going to take away from my racing. I'm the type of guy that I could call the 250 race and go race the 450 race,
Yeah.
and not be, my headspace doesn't get messed up like that. But
Don't tempt us.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
for
dude.
real.
Hey, you said
So
something earlier that was interesting to me. You're like, yeah, I don't care what the narrative is. I'm not paying attention to that. And it is true. For the most part, you've got fan support. You're not hated in general. But dude, that's hard for people to be like that. Like, is that something that you gained with perspective or through the years of not worrying about what the narrative is or what people were saying? Because that wouldn't be something I think you could automatically be like. Maybe you were though.
I kind of regret it as soon as I said that, because I feel like the only people that say that are people that actually do care.
It's true. It's
Um,
true.
it is true, but yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, every now and again I care. Like, somebody says something, I mean, I care. I do. I'm just human. I do
Sure.
care
Yeah.
a little bit. It's not just like
Okay.
like I'm a robot, right?
Right.
So, to clarify, but yeah, it's not focused. Like, what are you doing this for? Is the question I ask
Hmm.
myself. Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing this for? Like, I ask myself that question every time I post something on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever. It's
Hmm.
like, why am I doing this? And it's, if you ask a younger me, and I wouldn't even ask myself these questions at this age, but you're doing it for like a pat on the back, like for external praise. Like, everybody, please tell me how awesome I am. Like, please tell me how awesome I am. Feedback. So I think growing up, I was programmed, wired to seek that from other people. Like,
Yeah.
I needed that. Like, hey, am I doing good? Hey, am I doing good?
Yeah.
And having all the pump up, like, and yeah, it was just not a sustainable mindset. It's not a person I wanted to be, like going into, being an adult and having a full life. I don't want to be that way. So yeah, I mean, I've just basically just trained myself to stop really, like, that's not my goal. Like, it's awesome that people are supportive, and holy crap, do I appreciate it. Like, I really genuinely enjoy interacting with, fans of the sport and fans of me and all that stuff. And it's awesome. But at the end of the day, whether I have that or not, or whether I have bad feedback or whatever, it shouldn't change. Like I said, my core values, my character, doing my best. You're not reliant on that. Like, I'm not relying on that. So yeah, sometimes it'll bother me, or maybe somebody with some other athlete from other sports, like, good job, man. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't run my life, is what I could say. I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it. And yeah, it's been work to get to that space.
Well, I bet you these two things happen together, right? Like the moment that you're able to finally uncouple, like the only thing that matters is my result on the track, that's the moment you can probably decouple, like, I need that pat on the back and people telling me that I'm good to pump me up. Those two things probably go away in parallel. Or the timing has to be pretty close, I would think. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I mean, I remember specifically a time in, like, it was like 2017. I was with Nick,
Yep.
my trainer, Nick Way, for those
Mhm.
watching. And I crushed the moto. Like, I remember doing, I think it was at Lake Elsinore Supercross or
Mhm.
something. And everything was within like 0.2 of a second or something. And I came off, and I remember I asked him, how was it? And then I remember thinking to myself, like, why the hell am I asking this guy, how was it? Like, I know it was sweet. Like, it was awesome, And so kind of since then, I remember that moment specifically, I kind of started to change the way I thought about that.
Okay. Okay. One thing way back here at the beginning. This is a theory that my guy Langston put out years ago with you. Dude, you were a little guy when you were racing most of your career, right? And then
Yeah,
now you've turned into like this tall guy. And his theory was the poor guy, when he wasn't riding, like the 2 years that you weren't riding, you went from short guy to tall guy.
I
This has
know.
nothing to do with this mental stuff we're talking about, but do you think that's had an effect on your riding style and all these things? Because you went from short guy to tall guy. I don't remember any other rider who's done that, just the way it worked out.
Yeah, it definitely had an effect. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like what I still feel like these days. Like, I'll be in an airport, and I'll be, well, whatever, in a group of people, and I'll see a guy, and I'm like, man, that guy's pretty tall. And I go up next to him, and like I'm like, holy crap, I'm taller than him. So I'm like one of those. I'm like one of those, like, I mean, I'm 6'1", so I'm not massive by any means, but by motocross standards, people think that's huge.
Yes.
I'm like a big dog that thinks he's little. Like, that's what I feel like. Like, I watch videos, and I'm like, oh my God, thing looks like a pit bike.
Hmm.
But yeah, it does change because it's all weight. It's all like
Okay.
how much you're moving, and how much it affects. It affects a lot. And so I totally had to relearn how to ride the bike. And then on top of that, I got 2 reconstructed shoulders, where it's like, kind of, well, that changed my style a lot. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, oh yeah. Like, I used to be super, like, outside elbow up guy,
Hmm.
elbows up, but I can't. Like, this is my range of motion right here. So
Wow.
sometimes in the beginning of the races, I can have my elbows a little bit up, but they start to come down a little bit like this. And I've just had to learn how to be stronger on the bike in other areas, really. So there's a lot of stuff that I've not talked about that people would have no idea.
Yeah, when you mean weight, you don't mean you're taller and you weigh more. It's that, if you move
The
1 inch,
transfer.
yes, it makes a much bigger difference when you
Yeah.
have that leverage, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, if you watched me ride as an amateur, I was all over the back of the bike,
Hmm.
all over the back of the bike. And then, yeah, that just stopped working at a certain point. And I will say, being taller, there's more limbs flying around when you hit the ground too. So I used to be able to just absolutely tank it
Yep.
and get up. But these days, we got a lot of limbs flying.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Okay, so we only know this. You're a bit back at the races at some point. It could even be next
Yeah.
year. I mean, could even just be next year. That might be the way it
Yeah.
turns out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything that I can in the proper timeline to get back as quick as I can, because there's nothing more I want to do than race a motorcycle and do my job, and actually do something for my sponsors, because I feel like I haven't been doing anything lately, and it kills me. But yeah, all I can do is what I can do, my best, and I'll be back when I feel it's in the appropriate time and when I'm strong enough and able to be competitive. I'm not sure when that is, but yeah, maybe I'll come out of Instagram retirement for that post.
Oh, I didn't realize that. It's been that silent. It's been a completely silent.
Yeah, I haven't really been on Instagram in a while. It's been nice. It's been nice. It's just going back to what we said about like doing your best, not letting external things like bother you. It's just an easy way to like make your world this big instead of this big.
Well, what I like about this is I tell people all the time, yes, you're very popular as far as say Instagram followers goes, and I'm like, dude, race teams and sponsors, we are not there yet. They just want guys who
No,
are fast, guys that can win. So no one's calling you in the phone saying, Adam, we need more love on social. It's not how they operate. They just want you to be a good racer.
no, absolutely not. I mean, I think there are different partnerships where things are expected out of you, or maybe
Yeah,
somebody would feel a certain type of way. But where I'm at right now, we don't care
yeah.
at all.
You're paid to be a racer.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, this is awesome. I mean, we go on forever, but hey, one thing as you're looking into the future, I mean, these lessons that you've learned, and look, it's not like you went to war and had your leg blown off or something.
No, no, no.
No.
Yeah, let's keep it in perspective here.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
I live a great life. This is dirt bikes. Like we're having a good time.
Yes. But look, it meant everything to you, and it's been rough. I still feel like there are lessons that you could teach people down the road. Again, it's not war. It's not the gnarliest thing in the world.
Wait, I don't
But
like that. I don't
nope,
like that. It's been rough. It hasn't been rough, man.
you're not even
Look
gonna
at
go
me.
that far. I
Look
like
at
it.
me. No, it hasn't been rough. Absolutely not. Like unequivocally, no, it hasn't.
You have absolutely summed up the entire point of this interview that I wanted to get to. The fact that your perspective is so good on this now that you're like, dude, I'm still getting paid to ride dirt bikes.
Bro,
It's not that bad.
I'm a 25-year-old, well invested. I've
Yeah,
made millions of dollars racing dirt bikes. I'm able to
yeah.
support my family. I have great friends, great relationships. I get to travel the world. I race for professional Kawasaki. Like, how is that rough? Like, shit happens, sure, but if I'm not doing this, shit's gonna happen somewhere else.
That is
So
amazing. Okay,
that's
look,
the way I look at it, and that's not fake. Like maybe some people out there are gonna think that's fake. That's not fake. That's who I am.
dude, the stats you just lined up. You made millions of dollars and you're 25 years old and you got great relationships. Like, that's not
That's
fake.
it.
Those are
That's
real
it.
stats.
Like I got the best friends and family support, good times, experiences. Like I couldn't ask for anything more.
All right. Well, you're taking the momentum out of this. I'm serious. I think you could teach some people some lessons. And again, you haven't been through the worst. It hasn't even been rough. Hasn't even been
No,
rough.
nope.
But the things that you've had to figure out to get to this point, I think people can take stuff out of that. And I don't want to go too far because then they're going to say we're being soft. But
Yes. Oh no, we're already
yes,
there probably, but it's okay.
no, just tough it
Salute.
out. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, just tough it out. Just wish these guys would just shut up and just ride. You
Yep.
know,
Train. How about you stop doing pods and do some more rehab?
it's not that deep, bro. That's my favorite.
Okay. This has been exactly as good as I expected it to be. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Weege. I always enjoy talking to you, my friend.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me the time. And I don't know, we'll see you somewhere at a race, riding at some point.
I'm gonna be on the mic at some point around your neck of the woods
Look, like,
this summer, maybe.
I don't want to say it, but the door is always open. Like, no one in our business wants to take away from we're so afraid that we're like ushering you out as a racer. So everybody's just like, whenever the time
No,
comes,
no,
whenever the
I can
time
do
comes.
both. I can do both right now.
I'm
I
so
can
amazed
do
by
both.
that. I'm so amazed.
I don't know why.
I think everybody's scared if they say to you, like, hey, man, you'd have a great future in TV, that you're going to be like, what are you saying? I'm done as a racer? Is that what you're trying to say? We're so afraid of
Jeez
this.
Louise, man. No, nothing to
Okay.
be scared of.
We're ready when you are. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, man.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Thank you.
Awesome. Have fun. See you around. Thanks.
Peace.